Let me introduce you to our two incredible speakers today. So we will be addressing the challenges and strategies of entrepreneurship. So Horesia Nyawade, she is the co-founder and chief innovator at VUCA. And then we've got Natalie R, who's the innovator and inventor of Robots Can Think. What's really great is I met Horesia at Wits Business School, and we studied together, and it's so awesome that we get to collaborate on an event like this. So really looking forward to that. And Natalie, as I mentioned, has already spoken at one of our events and is so supportive of our mission to create that community of shared learning. So thank you so much, Natalie, for your support. Without further ado, I would like to hand over to Horesia. Would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself and why you started VUCA?
Thank you, Krystle. Good afternoon to everybody who's logged in, and happy Women's Month to all of the women. My name is Horesia Nyawade, and I am a Kenyan based in Johannesburg, South Africa. As Krystle said, we did meet when we were doing our MBA back in 2017, graduated in 2018. And it was actually during those discussions, like during the break times, is when my business partner and I, she's also an alumni of the Wits Business School. We just noticed that there wasn't like enough communication between the countries. So every time someone would be like, oh my God, you're from Kenya, are you going home? Can you please bring me something? And then I'll be like, cool, I'll definitely go bring you something. And then after a while, I figured out that my suitcase wasn't enough to fit everything that people would be ordering. And that got us thinking about how can we create a platform that can house or host or sell uniquely African products, so that wherever you are in the world, if you're thinking about, oh, I want a Maasai blanket from Kenya, you're not thinking about always reaching out to your classmates to get you one. But that's how the idea of VUCA came about. And yeah, so I think I'm just gonna save the rest of what VUCA does, but we did start out as an online platform for African-owned brands, and that's who we are.
That's really amazing, and it's so great to hear the full support of African brands. So super interested to hear more about your journey. And Natalie, would you like to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about who you are and your business?
Hi, I'm Natalie. Thank you, Krystle. I'm a huge fan and supporter of Chatbot and what you guys do. Horesia, it's nice to meet you. Robots Can Think actually just started as a logo. We just wanted people to know that robots can think, and the revolution or the next bend in this corner is going to be AI. So it was just started as, this is what we do, robots are here, what is your thoughts? And then we went into inventing and innovating and just bringing it alive. So we look at first in Africa, first in the world, sort of inventions that bring about some vibe in Africa, showcasing that we too can do it. We know Microsoft is there, but we too can do it.
That's super exciting. And I think that, you know, we've seen robots in movies, and a lot of people know robots as what we've seen in movies, but there's so much more to it and so many benefits that can come of it. So I'm really excited to hear a little bit more about that. So what we'll do is, before we start, let's get a little bit of an idea of who is with us today. So we're just going to launch a poll really quick, and then we can start our webinar. Right, so I'm launching a poll at the moment, and I'll give you about 30 seconds to complete it. And the question there is, tell us a bit about your current career. So whether you're an entrepreneur, you could work for a startup or an agency, or you could work for a medium or large corporate. You could be an entrepreneur and work for a company. Some people manage to balance both of those, which is really difficult. You could be transitioning between roles, deciding that you want something new. you could be a student, or it could be other. There's so many different options. So if it is other, please feel free to share what that other is in the Q&A. It would be super interesting to see that. Great, I've got about almost all of the votes. Quite interesting. Seems like most of the audience so far works for either a startup or an agency, which is quite interesting. And yeah, perfect. So I'm going to end the poll there and share the results with you. So you should see that on your screen. And we can see that most people in the audience today work for a startup or an agency. The second majority works for a medium to large corporate. Then we've got some entrepreneurs in the space and also some students. So that's really great. So that's quite a nice mixture. Fantastic. So I think it's a good time to start our panel discussion and start learning more about both of you and your journeys to become entrepreneurs. So the first question that I'd like to ask you is, when and why did you start your business? So I know we had a quick introduction now, but I actually want to backtrack and understand a little bit about what was it that made you decide, you know, I don't want to work for a company, or I would rather sort of go on my own and test this out and have this amazing idea. So Horesia, would you like to tell us first about what was it that got you into entrepreneurship?
All right, thank you, Krystle. So I can't believe you didn't allow us to vote on the little panel. I was ready to vote.
Sorry about that. I just assumed I knew.
All right, so before I came to do my MBA, a little bit of a background is that I was previously working for Deloitte East Africa as an information systems auditor, and I hated it. I loved my job, but I hated the whole experience of being in corporate. And the main reason was because I just felt like audit in and of itself is very strict and rigid in terms of the work that you have to do. And my personality and the type of person I am, I want to be able to come up with new ideas. I want to be able to innovate. I want to work on small projects that I see are going somewhere. So that's kind of what started triggering my entrepreneurial journey. And then also in Kenya, a lot of entrepreneurs were almost like tenderpreneurs. Where they would be sourcing for eggs or chicken, rearing that, and then selling that, and then saying that they were an entrepreneur. And so I just felt like I didn't want to get into a space of, I knew I wanted to do something, but I didn't want to just do something for the sake of doing it. So VUCA is actually my second venture. So the first one that I started with was Horesia's, where I figured out, I was just looking around, which is the process that a lot of entrepreneurs go through, where you're just looking around the environment, trying to figure out what gaps exist anyways, so that you can get in there. And that for me was, I recognized that like sports bras and intimate wear for women, so funny that it's Women's Month because this is super appropriate. People were just didn't have access to it, affordable ones, brand new ones, people wearing secondhand ones, which also informed my MBA thesis when I was leaving, and getting into the African brand space and checking how a lot of our factories had been closed down. And then back to what I did in my intro, what I said in my intro around just the movement of products within the continent. So coming into the space of founding VUCA was just fit perfectly well for me. And also there's a whole element of being a foreigner in the country. And then when I graduated, I was able to get my permanent residency. So that means I'm not illegally here, which just like supports the notion of me trying to push what it is that I'm doing. I hope that answered your question enough for us to keep going with the chat.
Absolutely. I think that's really interesting. One thing that you said about identifying those gaps, I mean, it's an interesting concept because, I've come across two schools of thought on that, whereas, sometimes there is a gap, and people want that. And sometimes people don't actually know what they want, and you can come up with something totally new and totally different and almost create the need. So it's quite an interesting thought. Natalie, can I ask the same question of you, of when and why did you start your business?
So yeah, sure. I think my journey was predominantly corporate, right? Up until 2 years ago, and I sat at a women's breakfast, and my now mentor said, Natalie, enough with corporate, you need to go out and do this for yourself. Because my journey in corporate was innovation and invention, and they saw the benefit of it. So 90 million Rand business units and so forth for corporate. And here's Natalie getting a salary, and she spoke into my life, and it's been changed since. So the journey from corporate to to owning your own business is like falling from the 50th floor and trying to build this parachute as you come down, and hopefully it lands and you pick up again. And it did do that. It felt like you're propelling downwards. It's stabilized, and now it's doing well. So that was the journey. And I think what's important is to realize that your craft and your talent is what employees look for. And it doesn't mean you cannot monetize and capitalize on your own craft and talent in your own space as an entrepreneur. And I think that was the realization for me, is you can do this.
Yeah, that's really amazing. I think that sort of free falling is definitely a good description of how you would feel. There were two important things that I picked up on there, and the one was having a mentor. So how did you go about finding a mentor?
I didn't. Like I said, it was attending a ladies' breakfast, and I was there, and I was not in the mood to be there. It was 8 o'clock in the morning, and you're just annoying me. And I sat at this round table, and everyone was talking about how ladies and need to battle between their office and corporate directorship levels and being a mom. And I'm like, I don't resonate with any of this, guys. Really? Like, what's that? And we started speaking about AI and robotics, and I said, what about the conversation of humans interacting with robots? How do you guys do that in a workplace? And that's when the head of the table, or the chair of the table, said, Natalie, let's chat. And she asked me if she could mentor me. And I'm like, okay, cool, let's do it. But I do believe everybody needs somebody who sees them better than they do themselves, to direct you in a way that you just mentally overcome the blocks. And it doesn't have to be someone with a fancy title, but just someone with a good spirit and a good head behind them.
Yeah, I agree. I've had some mentors in my life as well that have added so much value. And you sort of, as you move through life, you meet different mentors that can help you in different ways.
Yeah.
But it's absolutely valuable. Horesia, have you had a mentor at all in your business space or somewhere along your career journey?
Okay, so I haven't had an official mentor, and I've been one of those people who've literally been going out to seek mentors and finding someone who I thought was semi-cool and having that conversation of, do you think you could be my mentor? I tried it out with my aunt, who is doing her PhD in innovation. And that didn't work out too well. She was making me pay for all of our lunches, and I don't think I was really, really getting much out of it. But so what has happened is that my mentors have just ended up being the different type of interactions that I've had with people throughout my life, or that I continue to have with people. So some of my clients have been my mentors, because when they say stuff and I look up to them and I'm like, what? I can't believe you are this far in your business. That's some sort of mentorship to me. Or I've been in a position where I've had to mentor people, and I do it so wholeheartedly because I know how hard it's been for me to find a mentor, and I know what I need from a mentor. And so that's how I've been also, playing my part to be that person to people.
Wow, I really
But you
like
give back a little, eh?
Mm,
That's good.
lovely. Brilliant. And sort of the other point is that, I think even though becoming an entrepreneur is rather scary and feels like you're free falling, it's so awesome that you are able to create jobs for other people as you start sort of hiring and everything like that. So you sort of create opportunity for others, which is awesome. So the second question I have is, so where did you start your business? So I think, I know, Horesia, you mentioned that your ideas were kind of stimulated from being in Kenya, which is really interesting. So did you start so geographically, where did you start it? And also, did you start it in your home? Did you get an office? How did you go about that? I'll go with you, Horesia, if we can start.
Okay, so my office is still at home, if it's not evident by my background. And when I was getting into business, the biggest thing for me was, how do I keep my costs low as possible? So that for me, and how can I essentially be able to work from anywhere in the world at any time? And that's kind of how we ended up really focusing on the tech digital element of our business. And then when you're asking me where did I start, it was my trips back home during the breaks for the MBA, and just realizing that, okay, interacting with these suppliers or vendors who create the very creative and talented and have all these kind of products, realizing that the issue that I was noticing a lot is that they were very confined to their physical space. So if you could not make it to, for example, downtown Johannesburg, or make it to the market in Fourways on a Sunday, and right now you can see with Corona, things are closed, then it was almost like the vendor and the consumer have been separated, and then their sales are just so low, because they can't constantly market to those people. So that's where VUCA came in, to be like, okay, how can we have a platform where it's not me as a consumer thinking about 50 different websites and 50 different brands and going to visit them, and instead kind of make a marketplace where the end user can just come on and be able to browse all their products in one space. And then the other bigger question was, how do we do that throughout the continent and the world at wide? So that's something that we're still figuring out, and I'm going to again speak about it a little bit more as to how we've been able to pivot and constantly trying to answer that question, so that everybody's catered for. I could be working here, I could be in Nairobi, logging on to this live right now, this panel, but still be able to work and serve the vendors and the suppliers.
Amazing. So you've kind of you're going for creating a global company that can be accessed anywhere. And I think that's the power of technology, to be able to do that. That's really, really great. And would you ever kind of considering setting up offices anywhere else in the world? Any thoughts on that?
So no, not really. We're trying to keep it as lean as possible. I've heard that there's somebody in the panel from WeWork. So that kind of environment would work best for us, where you and your laptop, you are still able to complete all your tasks. When we started out, we were trying to play in the logistics space, where we're trying to make sure that we can make sure the product gets to the customer, and that wasn't working out, and that kind of influenced the pivots that I'm hoping to speak about a little bit later. But yeah, so a co-creative kind of space would work well, as long as you have the biggest assets for us and that we need is internet, really good internet, and your laptop. Yeah, that's what we need.
Interesting stuff. Awesome. And Natalie, where did you start Robots Can Think? I know you said you kind of had your idea at that breakfast, and what a good breakfast it must have been. But did it start in South Africa, and do you have any sort of global visions?
Yeah, definitely started in South Africa in a coffee shop. I put the logo together, and that's where it started. Definitely global. I mean, we have interactions with the rest of Africa. Because our products and services is really not just for South Africa. Also communicating with people at Silicon Valley, just to make sure that we diversify the information in AI right now. We all know data is important for AI, but we have the same sort of data and people circulating their own data. It's medium class upwards. And it's not really the rural guys infiltrating this data. And my question is always, if I give a cell phone to somebody in deep rural Eastern Cape, will they Google the same things I do? Absolutely not. So most definitely, I think the essence of Robots Can Think is really to change education, provide food to the hungry, and make sure the bare necessities are provided. And that doesn't mean it's only there for the able, but for the disabled too. Everyone speaks about AI and technology and all this good stuff for the able, but those that just cannot walk or talk or see, what do we do for them? So yeah, to answer your question, definitely Africa, rest of Africa, and then the world.
That's amazing, and I hope to see you global. Can you give us some examples of those innovations that you have created for people that need it?
Yes, most definitely. We created the first AI walking stick. So think about it. Somebody who's disabled, cannot see, cannot just, walk, has this AI-enabled walking stick that allows them to know that their staircases, how many cars are in front of them if they're out in the street. Is the traffic light red or green? Because how many times have we stood in a elevator and they just didn't know the elevator was now not working? So it has timers. It does some good stuff. So that's one. We're working with some bionic robotics teams here in Africa, South Africa especially, to enable and to implement AI within their bionic suits so that people can complete a marathon. They were previous runners, and because of some disability, they now cannot compete. And it shouldn't stop them, because we can make them able beings again.
Wow, that sounds like such an interesting space to be in. I think the learning must be exponential, but that is so
Easy.
Cool. Yeah, amazing. Amazing. Okay, so the next question I have is, and I think, Horesia, you mentioned it, to understand how has your business changed or evolved since it started? And what would you say would be the catalysts for those changes? Because I know often you can start a business with a certain idea, and it kind of works, but as you learn and evolve, you kind of figure out really what people want and sort of fine-tune your solution or change it altogether. So, Horesia, do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. So how has my business evolved? So it's really changed a lot, guys. And I think I'm very happy that so ever since undergrad, I did my undergrad in California, And I was able to be in that startup space quite a bit. Like a bit of my friends were there and just introducing you into that like Santa Monica mind space of agility and lean business. And so I've always had that kind of interest in that space, and understanding that I should not be so enamored with my idea that I'm not willing to let it grow and listen to what the market wants or what we are able to provide, depending on what they want. So we did kick off as an online marketplace, and we just realized that we're facing so many challenges, which was the first one and biggest one was logistics. So we came into the market saying that we want to have the drop shipping model. That's what we want to do. Amazon's doing that. We were super energetic. We thought it was going to work. And then we got onto the ground and we're speaking to Aramex, we're speaking to DHL, we're speaking to all these guys, and the shipping prices are out of this world. Now somebody is selling products that are like 100 or 150 rands, but to ship them, it's like 4 or 5 times more than the cost of the actual product. And so now we're stuck in this position where we want to get commission from the product. We want to facilitate your shipping, which means we want to pick it up from you, and then we want to deliver it to the end user. And we were just spending so much time in this space that people didn't actually need us for. And that was like very painful to realize, and trying to get out of that was quite the task. But what we did realize is that some of our biggest value add was also just being able to put these businesses online. So some digital presence, and that's where we were actually playing. That was the biggest space, so that even if we're not facilitating the logistics for you, you know that they exist. You can see what they have. And then you as an end user, you can go and reach out to them, you can order from them, and they find ways to deliver their products anyways. So that was a big move for us to just step away from that space. And then the second innovation or kind of pivot that we had was the VUCA Lifestyle eMag. So that's a monthly publication that we have at VUCA that I'm very excited about. And it started out as a catalog. So at first, looking at the continent and thinking, okay, we keep insisting that we have this website that we want people to log on to. So I'm very excited to hear some of the stuff that Natalie is doing, because then it's like, okay, we have the products, but do people even have the data and the time to log on and click onto the website? So like, let's create a catalog that we can distribute through WhatsApp, because, you know, our continent is connected on WhatsApp. People don't have data to log on to like big social media, but they will communicate on WhatsApp because it's like this brilliant platform. So that was such a good idea at that time. And then we found out that once you have 100 or 200 products on your platform, you put them on a catalog, then what? So then so okay, what are you going to do? You're going to have like a different catalog in the next month.
It's like having a website, right? Like, and then what? You have a website.
What next? Yeah, so now you built it. Are you going to keep it interactive? Are you going to keep adding blogs? Are you going to keep getting people to subscribe? So those are some of the learning things that we've had. But anyway, so that's what brought about the VUCA Lifestyle eMag. And again, sticking to our biggest core value add, which has been giving digital presence to these brands. So that's how we ended up coming up with blogs, writing about different businesses. Now it's monthly, and now we are almost overwhelmed with information that we have to now curate and spread out over the months. And now people can come and read about it. So not only through the website, but you also have this kind of very beautifully digitally curated magazine that is strictly about African-owned brands, African-owned businesses. Looking forward to covering Natalie's product one time, and then people interacting with it. So that was like a huge pivot for us to now no longer VUCA, the online marketplace for African brands, but VUCA, the digital navigation agency for for African-owned brands and businesses. So we make people find you online.
That's amazing. So essentially your platform is, it sort of combines a whole bunch of African brands so that you can, if you're looking for a particular thing, you can look at all the brands that would essentially offer that to you.
Like a marketplace, huh?
Very interesting.
Exactly.
And that sounds like quite a bit of pivoting that happened there and a few lessons that you learned along the way, which is normal. But how do you sort of keep yourself motivated to keep staying an entrepreneur? Because I'm sure it's scary and, you start to get doubts and things like that. So how do you keep yourself sort of on that entrepreneurial track?
Entrepreneurship, the biggest definition I have, I think it's like a calling, honestly, because I don't recommend it to people. And that's coming from me, who's an actual entrepreneur. I don't recommend it. And it's a calling because I don't understand how I wake up every day. But what I know for sure is that I did share my experience about my life in corporate. And I know that I gave it my all. And I know that I used to work long hours, and it wasn't for something that I was specifically passionate about. And so every time that I feel like I'm about to give up on my venture, I just remember that, look, you gave so much to a company that didn't really care about you. So this is something that you love, and this is something that you believe in. So that keeps me going. That's how I'm like, you know what, I learn how to take breaks when I need to. That's the power of being an entrepreneur, managing your time. Take a break, go chill, think about it, come back, and also having an awesome team of people who, help balance you. So sometimes you're feeling down, they also come through with the new ideas, and the togetherness, the family unit keeps us going.
How many people are in your team?
There's 3 of us, and recently we just got a new lady. So it's me, and then Chiwela Ngube, that's my co-founder. And then there's Mangoba Ringane. He is also the creative officer at VUCA. And we recently just got some lady who wants to work with us. So she just started exactly 2 weeks ago. And I'm really liking her output so far. So I hope she stays on. So it's a team of 3.5.
3.5. Amazing. That sounds fantastic. Natalie, can you tell us a little bit about any pivots that you've had and what were the catalysts for those pivots?
Like I said, we started off as just a logo. We just wanted to get people talking, and now we are building fantastic innovations that's helping our country at large, and placing us as Africans on the map, female Africans on the map. So I think that was a branch off. We also now in education, so taking education to the community, not just colleges and so forth. So picture yourself sitting under a tree with something called School in a Box that we developed, powering up deep rural areas that just have no electricity. And you have kids who've never seen tablets and a computer before actually interacting with it. So that's another avenue. And basically, yeah, just educating people. I think that was the biggest for us. Was we're not just building and creating inventions, we're actually teaching people to do what we do. Excuse me. And those people do not have to be college degreed PhD students, but anyone who has the passion and drive and finesse to just get involved.
It's actually so exciting to listen to what you've both created, because it's so evident the value that you're adding through both of your ventures.
And I do agree with Horesia that, man, you need some muscle if you want to get into entrepreneurship. It is not about the money, guys. Don't think you're going to make billions overnight. You're going to sweat billions overnight. And there's no work schedule. Like there's no 8 to 5. I mean, last night was a meeting at 9 o'clock to 11 o'clock. You have to be in it to win it. And because other people are reliant now on your services and your product. You have to make time for research because you have to be on top of your game. So if you don't have it in you to learn, relearn, unlearn, do it all over again, be taught, be stamped on, yeah, it's not going to work.
Sure.
I really like what you're saying when you said that there's people who don't even have access to electricity in the continent. So for innovators within the continent, that's big, because I know that we end up getting into spaces where people from the West, or the East are coming in and they want to work with Africans, they want to work with us, and then they don't realize that there's just some small instances, or small elements of being African and not living in a cosmopolitan city. That if you're going to innovate, you need to be able to be on the ground and get your hands dirty. And that's just another form of research, as you're saying. Yeah. So I'm giving you the solution, but do you have data to log in? How are you going to charge your device? Where you stay? How is ESCOM affecting the entire country with its random load shedding? So now you're speaking, you know what I'm saying? So I just feel like I really like that you said that, because that's something that's big for me, where your product or your solution is able to serve a lot more people in a way that they'll actually benefit from it, as opposed to just, this curated like group of people who have laptops and iPhones and data and cars, and which is great. There's people who can like provide services for them, but if you really want to go down to like proper innovation, like go into the continent. Go out.
So what you're speaking about is something I termed in front of our education minister as recycling stale air, because what we're doing is that we are the suburbians and we do and create for us. No, that's not what we're here to do. We're here to create and change it, right, and influence it. And that's what we drive. We will make sure that we probably won't achieve what we want to achieve in this life, but at least we started, and there's now people behind us that are going to take it forward. It's easy to put products out there and attract corporate, but we're going to be always begging them for their support, knocking at their doors and, hey, this is what I have. But if you take these products to the people out there and say, this is what we're doing, this is how we're doing it, those guys have an ecosystem that far outweighs what we know in this suburb sort of corporate space. And how they monetize and create their economies is something we need to tap into and be part of and be pivotal in changing it. The banks want to convert unbanked customers to bank customers. And I say, why? Why can't you do it the other way? Why can't you just accept that, go down the street wants to keep her money under the bed and give her the necessary safety mechanisms to contribute to her mattress bank? I mean, geez.
I think this is almost sort of a whole separate panel that we could discuss, because I've got so many thoughts here that I'm just kind of wanting to ask. There's so much, because if you watch sort of some of these YouTube videos and everything, that they're talking about so much opportunity in Africa, and they're looking at the sizes and everything like that. But first, you need to truly understand that market, and the only way to do it is to be on the ground. So interesting, but I could talk about that all day, and perhaps we should look at doing another session on that. But I'm just going to move on to our last question, which is around the funding. So funding is always scary. So the question is, how did you go about it for your business? Did you self-fund? Did you use angel investors? Did you go the route of VCs? Tell us your story. Tell us what you went through, Horesia.
Okay, cool. So my answer's actually kind of going to flow from the convo we've just been having. So to answer your question, in short, we are self-funded. We haven't been funded yet as a company, and that's kind of really pushed us to keep innovating and keep finding ways so that the company is self-sustaining. I wrote on LinkedIn like about a month ago that it's the first time ever. My company is turning 2 next month in a couple of days. And I wrote that it's for the first time ever that my company has paid me. That was so big for me. I was just writing from the bottom of my heart because it was this new type of joy. And I promise you, it was not $1 million. It was not even 50,000 rands. I'm just going to try and manage everybody's expectations on this line. But just seeing me going the other way around from VUCA account into Horesia's and not from Horesia's to VUCA as it had been like the last couple of months, it was so refreshing because it means that every single new decision that we've been making to be able to make money in the company is actually coming to fruition. Now, on funding, I've been having a personal little problem with funding, which is tied to what we were just talking about. So we've applied for so many opportunities, and granted that we've been pivoting a lot and trying to get our footing. I know we're feeling a bit more stable as to who VUCA is right now, but we've faced a lot of pushback from funders, which is, what is your technology? Which is the same thing I've been fighting right now. I'm like, you want me to give you an app or a robot, and where is it going to work if we cannot plug it into electricity? And so I've been fighting that a lot, to be like, the people sitting, the judges sitting in the decision-making power to fund people, to really also do their research and really listen to what is the solution. What is this person providing, and to whom, and why do they need the money? Because I find that people are rooting for tech. We wanna fund tech, but they're so focused on tech being something that they're seeing on TV that actually doesn't fit within our ecosystem, and not really understanding what that is locally. So yes, self-funded. We're working on it. We are growing. We're much more sure of what we're doing right now. So hopefully it's going to be a lot easier to get funding as we want to expand and grow. But yes, that's my 2 words on funding right now.
Amazing. I think it's a very difficult thing. We've definitely found at the moment that the investors are very much focused on the tech space. So I guess it would be, really trying to create more awareness around that as well, and trying to sort of invest not only for the return, but also for that value creation to the community. So that's also a very interesting topic. And what about you, Natalie? Any self-funded or any VCs in your space?
I think I'm going to just annoy people on the call and say that I don't believe in the angel investments and all of that. I mean, what worked for Robots Can Think is good partnerships. So come in, put your skin to the game, see what this is all about, feel how painful it is, instead of just giving me your money. And why I say it's painful to go angel investment is because the documentation to get in there is no way I am completing anything. So I would start and then just like, nah, man, we don't really need this admin. And then you have to go through the phases of it, presenting and this pitch. No, I can build something in that time. So with Robots Can Think, we value our time. And if you're going to waste it as an angel investor with all your documentation and good stuff, no, thank you. So there's been good partnerships, and we have a different sort of business model. And each product within Robots Can Think is its own sort of branch, and you can invest in it or partner with it in its own entirety. So we come up with this great idea, we build it out for you, we teach people from the community how to do it. And then if you want to partner with that product and you're passionate about it, we will sell it to you, it becomes yours, and we just own the IP. So it's just different ways of investing and gaining capital. But to answer your question, yes, self-funded, good partners, good sort of community members that really want to be part and parcel of. No angel investing, no venture capitalists, no admin.
No, it's not an easy thing to do, and it is absolutely massively time consuming. I think that's quite interesting. So to invest on a project by project basis, if you sort of have the passion and the interest in it, I think that's quite an interesting approach. Okay, so this time has absolutely flown, and I think this is an incredibly interesting discussion. There's so many more points that I would have liked to have discussed. But I think we sort of got 5 minutes left. So I'm just going to launch a poll quickly. Our last poll for this webinar. I'm just going to launch it quick. Oh, sorry, I didn't allow you to vote, but I'll read them out and you can vote live. So the question is, what is your biggest concern about being or becoming an entrepreneur? So if you want, you can select more options than one. And the options are funding, like we just discussed, so that capital required to start and run my business. Stability, so the risk of not earning a stable salary. As you said, Horesia, this was sort of the first month that you actually got to pay yourself. The big idea, so unsure of whether my idea will succeed. I think we're missing some words there, but succeed is the end bit. And then roles and responsibilities, so difficulty planning and fulfilling multiple roles at the start of the journey. So I think both of you will know that you kind of have to almost fulfill all the roles across the company, and sort of it's a steep learning curve. And then we've also popped in an option for other there, which would be interesting to see your thoughts on the chat if you pop that in. I'm just going to give you a few minutes. So Natalie and Horesia, what would you say is your biggest concern, or was your biggest concern about becoming an entrepreneur?
It's whether I would actually see it through. So I'm the type of person, I can ideate, I can build something out, and then I'm bored. And then I want the next thing. So that was a big concern, because, you know, I can start this thing up, get people interested in it, and then I'm not interested. Yeah.
That's quite interesting, and I think that is relevant. And as you go along, and as you sort of have challenges and have to pivot, you know, it's always that question of, should I continue? And Horesia, what would you say was your biggest concern about becoming or being an entrepreneur?
I think for me, it's ongoing, which is just being able to dream big enough. I'm the first entrepreneur in my family. Just being able to really dream big. I feel like even just in my life, I keep challenging myself to want more and bigger things and better stuff, and wanting to cross way bigger boundaries than I'd ever thought in my life. So each time I'm like thinking, I even like have this self-doubt of, is that all? Is that all you want? Don't you want to like think bigger? So it's ongoing. You know, how can I actually make this like really have that kind of powerful impact, you know, that's not just, you know, my 1 degree of separation, 2 degrees, make it like 50,000, and I still think that's small, you know, of separation. So self-doubt.
That's what keeps you motivated big time. So having that, accomplishing those really, really big goals and that big vision. So not a bad thing. I'm going to end the poll and share the results. What I can see is we sort of equal between stability, so that risk of not earning your salary, and the big idea, not sure whether your idea will succeed. I think often people have sort of ideas and stuff like that, and it sounds great to them, and they maybe chat to some people, and some people don't really reflect that it will succeed, and they might sort of just drop off that idea and say, okay, well, doesn't look like it will succeed. So that is interesting.
I'm seeing on the chat there's a question around product market fit and the risk of not being able to earn a salary. So I know we've managed to go through the entire hour without speaking about Corona, which is amazing. But I'm going to bring it in right now, when that uncertainty of will I earn a salary or whatever, I feel like this pandemic has really shown us a different perspective of that, where even something that you could previously use as a crutch to be like, okay, every month money is going to come in, then something comes into the world that we can't control and we have to wear masks, and now people are being laid off, and it's just, Corona is the exact way entrepreneurs feel all their lives. That form of uncertainty, that's your entire life, where you're just like, I don't know what's going to work. I don't know if, product market fit. I've said this before to a few of my audiences. Your friends are not your clients. That's just one thing for sure. You will have great ideas and then you'll tell your friends about them. And since they're your friends, they'll be like, yeah, that's such a good idea. You should do it. You should start. And then you start and they are nowhere to be seen. They still want to have wine with you or have tea with you and not really purchase your product. So when you're worried about product market fit, I think you need to really go again and see, who am I making this for? Do you need it? Will you pay for it? How much will you pay for it? And so on and so forth.
I think that's a really, really good point. And that's probably some mistake that some would make, is sort of talking to the wrong people to see if it would be a valuable solution. So just to wrap up, I would just like to say thank you on behalf of Chatbot, on behalf of French Tech and our community that we're building. Thank you so much for giving us your time and sharing your knowledge. It was extremely interesting. And would you like to leave us with any last thoughts, Natalie? Any last thought before we end off?
Yes, sure. Thank you for having us. And as you know, we put 3 ladies in a room and we just all can't stop talking. So thank you, and I enjoyed it. I think just to the audience is, keep at it, believe in yourself, and believe in what you do. Your talent will bring you in front of kings and queens, and that's what you need to remember. Thank you.
I love that. That's really great. And Horesia, last thoughts?
I would like to give light to VUCA. A big thing that we're doing in our lives is really trying to build our audience and our community. So we're on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. Like, you can find us anywhere. And, if you see any of our stuff, subscribe to our newsletter. We're really trying to bring you new and exciting content every single month. VUCA is VWQA. Thank you, Krystle. Thank you for having me. Nice to meet you, Natalie. Let's connect. Thank you to everybody who showed up. I appreciate you spending your time.
Thank you.
Afternoon.
Thank you, everybody.
Cheers. Bye.